Like the old saying, will April showers bring May flowers? Better yet, contracts. I'm going to dissect this month's stats, the April stats for 2026, and see what's really happening and give you some examples of what I've been experiencing this month in April. Stay tuned and get caught up on the Sarasota real estate market update in today's video. Coming to you live from YouTube with the April 2026 real estate market update. It's just me today. Normally I have a guest, but not so much today. I normally like to look at the inventory. I like to start there, but this time there's always like a dissertation from the board, the president of the Sarasota Manatee Board of Realtors. So I want to see what they had to say here. And I'll just get started. I'll just dive right in. And by the way, before I do start, if you've been watching my YouTube channel for a while, thank you. Thank you so much for commenting and sharing. I want your input. I want to know that people are watching. I think that especially when it comes to the market, because I think I get asked maybe not daily, but almost daily, hey, how's the market? And it's such a it depends answer. And that's one of the reasons why I do these videos, so I can refer people to them and give my real deep dive thoughts on and real life examples. So if you've been with me for a while on this channel, thank you so much. I try to educate and make it fun too, because life's not so serious. There's enough serious things going on in the world that, I like to have fun with what I do. And I do enjoy real estate a lot. I've been doing it since 2002 and I've had a lot of ups and downs, but my audience, I'm so grateful for, and the people that are subscribed, thank you. If you're inclined to click the subscribe button, I would love that, and thank you. So we'll just dive right into the report. Let's see here. One of the things I highlighted was it says, as rising sales activity coincides with tightening inventory, the prices become steady. So rising sales, tightening inventory. And I'm going to get more into the inventory here as we move along. Prices are relatively stable. I think if I were to give you an overview of like right this minute, end of April 2026, post-tax time, what is the market like? It's more what normal was before COVID, maybe even before the Great Recession or after, in that sweet spot, somewhere in the middle, where things were more normal. And I know it's hard for sellers that have been on the market for a while, trying to figure out where the pricing should land has been a challenge for some sellers in certain pocket markets. So I think in a general sense, we're just healthier. And I'll kind of go into why I think that here in a minute. And here's another thing that I highlighted. We are continuing to see increased demand across both counties. So that's amazing. I do think that buyers have the luxury of time right now. They're really waiting and really watching and stalking certain properties for these price drops. And I think some sellers are really priced right, and they don't need price drops, even if they have been sitting on the market for 90 days. And I'll give you an example of that. One example of that is like a really high turnover capacity, high capacity rental type property. They're hard to get into. So because they're such great ROIs, they have extremely good gross income for annual income, but they're really hard to get into because they want to keep their 5-star reviews. And if they keep bothering their guests, they're subject to less than 5-star reviews. So it's kind of a catch-22 in some cases. So it makes it a little challenge. So don't be afraid of some that just stay priced the way they are, but just haven't sold in 90 days, 100 days, almost even 200, 300 days. It doesn't always mean that it's price. And so buyers are watching these like crazy. They're like, what's wrong with it? And is it the price? Not always the case. So what else do we have here? Key trends in Sarasota Manatee March. Of course, these are March stats, 2026. So I post them April. As far as sales growth, it says more homes are closing compared to last year. So that's great. That's really great to see. Price stabilization again. Despite increased sales, sellers are facing limits on how much they can raise prices as buyers remain cautious. Yeah, they are cautious. And I think buyers too are settling into the fact that these are the rates, whatever they're hovering right around 7% or just shy of 7%. Another creative thing that we're getting asked more from buyers is seller financing. Now, we get some crazy, ridiculous offers like asking a seller to carry a note for 5, 10 plus years. I just closed one on a barrier island and it was an 18-month seller financing deal. And in that, the incentive for the buyer was the lower price, but also to combat that, to make it more appealing for my seller, we said, okay, but you can't prepay it before the 12th month. So while it's an 18-month seller note, we mandated in the draft of the mortgage, so to speak, the seller note, that the buyer cannot prepay before the 12th month, so that she was able to garner that $40,000 in interest for up to $60,000 in interest at the 18th month with the balloon payment. So we are hearing that a lot. That was the third ever in 24 years, since 2002, that I've ever done a seller finance deal. They tend to be properties that are, of course, paid for, although they don't have to be. They tend to be a higher value property, and they tend to also be, just in my experience at least, and the stories I've heard, in second homes, not people living in the properties, in generally very nice areas. So third one's a charm. I've did my third seller financed transaction we closed this week. So we're seeing some creative things like that happening, and it's a beautiful thing when the buyer and the seller are reasonable and creative and the two agents work together. The agent that I worked with, he's been in business a really long time, does a lot out on the island there. And so with the way that he presented it, and then therefore the way that I educated my client, it was a beautiful marrying of the two parties to come to an agreement with this property, and everybody's extremely happy. So it's a win-win. Moving on here. So price stabilization, buyers are cautious, but they're trying to be creative as well. And by the way, that was a 6% rate. So see how that works. It's appealing because rates are higher. Longer days on market. They're taking time to evaluate, and therefore some of the properties are sitting longer in the market. Yes, I agree with that. In summary, there's 4 key trends. Oh, what are those trends? Number 1, inventory is shrinking across property types. Number 2, sales activity is increasing. Number 3, prices stabilizing. Number 4, buyers are leveraging time as a primary negotiating tool. So see that last one? Buyers are leveraging time. This is why I always talk about days on market, because a seller that lists a property, let's just say 100,000. Okay, I don't know what you're gonna buy in Sarasota for 100K, but listen, just using the number, okay? You list it for 100,000, and it's sitting 7 days on the market versus 200, and you've lowered several times to get to the 100. Okay, that's generally what happens. Are you going to get a higher price if you just list it for 100 now, or after 200 days and countless reductions in the 200th day? You're probably going to get more in the first 7 days. And that's why I tell clients, like, we can list it a titch above, what I recommend. It's not me dictating, it's the market. And I'm willing to work with sellers. Of course, this is like a relationship business. I can only show you the stats that I have, that I'm privy to, that I have access to, that I know, and have off market comps that I can show you. And I'm willing to work with sellers. But if you try this price and it doesn't work, then this is all I do. I'm in the market day in and day out, hour by hour, minute by minute for years, and I know when it's time to reduce generally, and it's a conversation, and it sometimes takes a lot of convincing. But when you do that and then it goes pending, it's an awesome feeling because that was that sweet spot that was between the seller and the marketplace telling you, yes, that was the number. So it just takes time. And, like I have this large listing on North Manasota Key, which is such a special place. Check out the listing if you haven't already. 756 North Manasota Key, North Englewood, behind the coveted gates. Okay, you cannot get back there. But the reason I point that out is because when the properties do sell up there, I went through and took some averages, and one of the averages was days on market. And these are 7-figure properties, some into almost the 10 million range. They took an average of 107 days in the last 6 months to a year to sell. And it was about just shy of 1,100 per square foot. So you take all those things into account when you're pricing a property, and everybody wants to negotiate. They want to negotiate. I think it landed in the 94.8% of from list price to selling price in the 107-day average, and just under 1,100 per square foot. So that's a niche market, and you have to really look to that niche, small geographic area to advise your sellers. How many days on the market should we expect? What's the price per square foot? Like, you can't really count South Manasota. You can look to it. I think it's a good gauge for comparison purposes. But like, there's one pending in, I think it's the 7,000 block on Manasota Key, so it's south of Manasota. It's listed for 4.9 million. It's getting ready to close here. I'm keeping my eyes out. So as soon as that sells, that's information I'm taking back to my client, my seller, as just more data, just data points. And as things shift and change, days on market creep up. Buyers are watching. Are you going to lower your price? What are we going to do here? So it's always a wait, watch, learn, see, educate kind of thing. It's always fluid what we do. Real estate's always changing. So it's important that your agent keeps you abreast. Now, I've had a few that sold in 24 hours. So I don't have to keep you abreast. We just keep the contract going, but that's an awesome thing. The last 3 listings I had in varying locations and price points went in 24 hours. It was just awesome. So it does happen in 2026, just so you know. Let's see. I'm just going to read this last piece. The data suggests a shift away from fast-moving, seller-driven environment toward a more balanced and strategic market. With demand remaining strong, buyers are exercising patience. I try to be patient. It's so hard sometimes. And control, using longer decision timelines, and in many cases, cash offers to strengthen their position. We do see a large percentage of cash, probably larger than the national average. I'm not sure what it is, but because we have such a second home and snowbird population here, we do see a good amount of cash. Probably 60% of the deals cash, especially when you're talking 7-figure island type properties. Those are mostly cash deals. Oh, and to that point, cash deals are up. Okay, year over year, they're up almost 9%. Interesting. Let's just skip to what we really want to talk about. It's inventory. So remember, when I'm doing the statistics, I always look to Sarasota County single family homes because it's not as volatile for statistical purposes only as the condo market. The condos in Sarasota, Manatee County are hovering at about 8 months of inventory, which is a definitive buyer's market. So that's why you'll see some sitting. And you really want to be cautious you want to ask your agent, has this community done the milestone report? Are they susceptible to having it done? Does this building even need the milestone report engineering study done? Remember, this is post Surfside. It's due to Surfside. These are laws in place where they have to do a structural integrity of the property study and therefore balance it with your reserves in the line item in your budget. It's called reserves. Are you been like slacking, or we need to beef it up? What do we need to do? So that affects your bottom line, your pocketbook when selling. Likewise, it can make it harder to sell if there's a bunch of outstanding upcoming assessments and things like that. So, condos are taking longer. There's more on the market. It is what it is. You can call and ask me. We could set up an appointment to ask about your condo, whether it's on Longboat, Anna Maria, all the great places. So just let me know. Months of inventory for single family home is vastly different. It is a technical, I would say more of a seller's market at 4.8 months, because an equilibrium market's like 6 months, but it doesn't feel like as much a seller's market. It's more equal. And I would describe this, the point at which we are right now, which is April 2026, a very normal market. Yes, there's outliers, but like sellers need to understand, like, of course, an agent wants to sell it in a day. We don't want it to take a year. But let's be honest, how many $10 million buyers are there? How many $5 million, how many $3 million buyers are there? As you get up into the ether of this multiple 7-8 figure properties, the sheer facts of life are that there's just less available buyers. Okay. So while that is true, one of these properties might pop and it just happens to fit and the buyer happens to be looking and it sells right away. That's actually not uncommon here in Sarasota, from Sarasota to Charlotte County and Manatee County, because a lot of these properties are just really unique, highly desired, beachfront a lot of times, move-in ready, brand new, just exceptional type properties that they do move quickly, and it's amazing. So all of that to say, when people start asking me about the market now, I think I'm just going to say in a general sense that this is more normal. And yes, there is always going to be things going on in the world. There's always going to be some war brewing or some issue politically happening. I will say, like, all things considered, being in Florida has been amazing as far as, of course, the aesthetics, the sunshine, the beaches, and all that. But like from a fiscal standpoint, our governor has run it extremely efficiently. We are in the net positive. And, of course, there's talk about this homestead tax, and it might wean into something close to zero or like less than what we're paying now. Anything less than what we're paying now is great because we are net positive. And then we just have always been like a tax haven state because we don't have state income tax. So people just, a lot of migration from the West, California, people moving from California to Texas, Texas here, big companies or owners of companies having their homesteads here in Florida. What does that tell you? And, I love that Sarasota is not expensive like Miami or Palm Beach, and we don't want to be. Like, we're still less than Naples, but we have some very, very high-end exclusive branded hotels here that really has put Sarasota on the map. From the 5 Ritz-Carlton Towers to the St. Regis to the Waldorf, the Rosewood. Now, if we get a Four Seasons, I'm never leaving because it's my favorite branded hotel. To me, I like the Four Seasons. So if we go in here, I would be really excited. I would just be moving into that place. I don't know who's going to pay for that, but I'd be moving in. So if we got a Four Seasons here, wow. Anyway, I hope that's helpful. I'm always going to be the voice of reason with respect to real estate. And I know Sarasota. I know Sarasota real estate. I know prices. I know the market. I know what's going to sell. I know how to sell. I've sold, I've got that 199 condo that sold in a day too from the multi-millions. So, don't be afraid to call me if you have a small condo here too. I love what I do. And again, I just appreciate you guys watching. I hope it was informative, fun. If you meet me in person, this is how I am. So just, this is how I am on and off camera. Okay? And I do like to have fun. I do like to keep it real. I am very serious when it comes to selling real estate. And that's my number one job. So you're welcome to call, text, email me. It's shaylatwit@gmail.com and call text 941-544-7690.